All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera, and we are back at it with the live discussions with Diamond podcast. This is episode 196, and what you just saw was an amazing visual by the one and only Elias Travers with our special guest tonight. But before we get started, I hope everyone is having a beautiful Friday. Guys, stay safe, and I can't wait to see you all. But tonight, actually, we have a very special guest, a person that, for me, is also an inspiration into my journey into the Zook community. And I'm very pleased to have this next guest on. Right now, he is stationed at DC, but originally from the amazing Brazil, we have the one and only Gui Prada.
Hello, everybody. Oh, I'm so
Well,
excited to be here.
no, listen, the excitement is all mine, honestly, Guy. It's a pleasure. I mean, first of all, watching that video, the not only the importance of the connection, the musicality, the fluidity, the chemistry, but for me as well, from the visual side, how he captured those visuals really made those moments shine. But again, Guy, I'm very thankful to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you, man. It's my pleasure. Really excited. I was looking forward to this Friday for a
Man,
while now. So I'm really
hey.
happy that it's finally happening.
And I appreciate it because, for me as well, us as artists or dancers or people within the dance scene, no matter if it's the DMV, DC, New York, what have you, we all go through many experiences. And a lot of times we're just moving along. We're going from event to event. We're creating choreography after another. And we have so many videos and content, but really a lot of things that lacks is the conversation.
Yeah.
And for me, starting this podcast in June of 2020, you were definitely an inspiration for me because seeing how invested you were in communicating with your community, from even as far back when you were doing Zoom
Mhm.
conferences, really with the people in your community, and I really
Yeah.
appreciated that. But getting to meet you at the in Manhattan a few months ago at an
Yeah.
event we did, it was really gratifying because to see the influence, to see how people received you, it made sense because I'm seeing people from New York tell me, you have to meet this person. His classes are like life changing. And I see it, man. For me, just seeing how you interpret the people who are learning from you, how you receive them, really how you teach, how you approach your teachings for me is really impressive. And having you on means a lot because it's not just about celebrating you as the artist. I think also it's very important for people to understand is that you are a person. You have feelings, you have a life outside of Zook at times. Even though many people just see visual after visual, I think people
Yeah.
also should understand that there is more to life, or you do have other things you do
Yeah.
besides Zook. So, having you here
Yeah.
means a lot because I love to focus, of course, on the success currently what we see, but also understand the past and how
Mhm.
that was really created. So, Guy, kind of help me and help us understand who is Gui Prada before Zook, before it all.
Yeah. Oh man, uh well, it's funny because when I think who was I before this, before Zoom, before everything, it's really interesting to think about what I was doing. So before I started dancing, and I started dancing at a rather young age. I was 17, yeah, which is young. Uh, so before starting, I can say that before I started working in this field, in this market of the dance, I was working as a contracts lawyer at an industrial intellectual property firm back in Rio. And before I started dancing, I was just like a regular shy teenager that had video games and role playing game RPG as my
Okay, okay.
as my way to have fun. Yeah? So Dungeons and Dragons, Dagmar, like all I tried all the systems and I used to play video games and just basically I was a kid that played outside a lot, so like physical activities, like doing this outdoor things was a big part of my childhood. So
Hmm.
I think before this, I was a teenager. So before dance was actually challenging years of my life because I was super, super incredibly shy. I was
Mm.
pathologically shy, let's say. I had a stammer, so it was really hard for me to communicate. Uh,
Gotcha.
so so before this was like this the awkward teenage years for sure.
Mm. And
And
that's interesting. I'm sorry to cut you off, Guy, but it's interesting because um, many artists that I talk to let me know a lot of times, even though we're in an extroverted world, a lot of times we're the most introverted internally.
mhm, mhm.
And
Yes.
I mean, and also for me and my experience with many friends who are mine who are Brazilian, they're very boisterous. They're very loud. They're very, just
Oh,
they capture the room. But to hear as well from you that you growing up shy and going through your own experiences, that just really shows the transparency.
yeah, man. It was not easy for me at all. I have a younger brother, and at the time, I remember at the time my mother would ask us to go to the bakery to get bread,
Mhm,
and I would go with him. He was 2 years and a half younger than me, and I would go with him
mhm.
so he could do the talking. I would just like be there because I was so shy. So that was like my years before dancing. So,
Hey,
mm,
I mean, I appreciate that because realizing a lot of times how we were in the past also shows how much we had to work as hard to get where we are presently. Because
yeah.
many people would see you at events and say, "Oh, he must be this just joyful person who's sociable with everybody." But a lot of times, hey, I heard people say, "I'd rather perform and go straight upstairs into my room." Because being around hundreds of people at once, it can definitely be a shock to many. But even as
Yes.
even as we're talking, we got Allison
Oh,
here,
Alisson. Eita. Yeah, man.
and so a question I have for you, Guy, is of course, growing up through your teenage years, and many people who don't know, with Zouk or specifically Lambada, that
Mm.
I believe originated around the late '80s into the '90s. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Mm.
that was more in the favelas, that was more in the ghettos, the streets, and to then see for me the growth of it. I think with every kind of genre or style of dance, it starts from kind of the underground and works its way up. But for you, when would you say was your introduction to Zouk? Of course, Brazil being the founders of it. But for you,
Mhm.
when did your introduction really become apparent?
Yeah, that's a super cool topic because I grew up in the 90s, yeah? So it was like Lambada really exploded in 89, which was the year that I was born, So like it
Okay.
really exploded then. Uh, but it kept going to like the mid 90s. So I remember being a kid and watching Lambada on the TV a lot.
Mhm.
And I would like in the neighborhood that I was living, we would have lambada competitions for the kids. so so I would say, but I was very shy to compete, but I would see some of my friends competing. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden it disappeared. So Zouk came into my life when I joined a dance studio in Rio. As I had a scholarship, it's some sort of scholarship that they would give
Yeah.
to you to trade time for knowledge. So I would give them my time to dance with the people there because in Brazil back then the ratio was really uneven. We had so much more followers than leaders in the schools. Yeah,
Mm.
so they would get all these boys to learn how to lead. In
Yeah.
exchange, they would dance with the followers they had there. So like, I still have my name tag, and I was H121. I was the 121 male scholarship holder,
Oh
and
wow.
of a team of 300 and something. It was a very big team. So we would, in exchange for learning how to dance, we would need to learn all of the dances. And in this process, I was introduced to Zouk. I saw Zouk for the first time at this studio, and I was really hooked by it. Like, immediately when I saw what was happening, I was incredibly hooked by it because of it looked very different from anything else.
Hmm.
Especially in terms of the vibe, because
Yeah.
back then we would dance Brazilian zouk a lot to Caribbean zouk music, Caribbean and Cabo Verdean zouk music, ghetto zouk.
Yes.
So and Cabo zouk. So that was so different. That was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I want to learn this thing. You know? Yeah.
Man, and that's very interesting because for me, many people that I've talked to, of course, who are Zouk dancers, Zouk artists, a lot of their roots have come more from the States. Of course, some of them I've talked to have come from Brazil. But it's very interesting to hear your experience coming from the birthplace of it and really
Mhm.
kind of having that story of, you were back in those programs that they wanted to teach people how to lead because there was such a influx of just followers that they needed people and
Yeah.
realizing how that started. So you're learning, of course, in Brazil through those trainings. How long did it take for you to kind of really get a grasp on it? Like when you were learning it, was it
Mhm.
like really easy? Everything was seamless, or were there kind of some bumps along the way?
No, it took me time. It took me some time. And I'm gonna be really honest with you, man. Like this Zouk back in the day, it was really hard for me to get it. It was really, really hard.
Mm.
Like if you get a video from Zouk from 2007, for example,
Mhm.
you will see like a major difference from what it is today. So that the way that was danced back then, it was really hard for me. It was really hard. To the point that it got to a point that like, okay, I give up. I'm not doing this thing anymore, you know.
Oh my god! I mean,
So
and
so I kind of got stuck there. I got
Mhm.
stuck in a way of dancing zouk a little bit for a little while,
Yeah.
and then when the dance changed, I really got to embrace it a little bit more. So for me to get a good grasp of the fundamentals and feel comfortable dancing some of the fundamentals, it took me a
Mhm.
year and a half, more or less, and you have
Okay.
to 2 years to really feel comfortable without like thinking every time on the next thing I'm gonna do. Like so to really like get into my body, it took around 2 years.
And I would say kind of the muscle memory, like
Yeah, muscle memory.
yeah,
Yes.
because that's also I hear that from many dancers and artists that once they start getting that muscle memory of the movements, things become a lot more easier because that is a thing too of many people don't want to say they've been victim to noticing that they're counting, but that also is
Hmm.
kind of hindering you from actually just excelling. It's hindering you from really getting into the music. You're more focused on, am I doing this right, rather than am I having a genuine experience, whether it's with someone or by yourself. So then you, of course, learning, and I believe you said around 2007. For
Hmm.
you, then, when was that move? Because of course now you are in DC, and for me,
Hmm.
I've heard for years I love DC because it's not only a bachata, salsa, kizomba, a West Coast swing. They have Zouk, and Zouk is a really big community out there. And shout
Yeah.
out to all of the artists out there doing amazing things with Zouk. But for you, when was that, or what created the transition to go from Brazil to DC?
Yeah, that's a interesting story because I actually went to DC. We are the shy nerds. Exactly. We definitely are. I went to DC, man, out of convenience. To be very honest, like I was so back when I started dancing, I also did my first international travel ever, and I went to
Mhm,
Canada in Vancouver.
mhm.
And I was fascinated by the way of living, how easy life was and stuff like that compared to Rio, compared to Rio de Janeiro. And I put in my mind, I'm gonna live abroad at some point in my life. So then you fast forward in the future, 10 years later, exactly 10 years later,
Mhm.
2017, my father, he was assigned to a mission in the US for 2 years,
Mhm.
and he was assigned to Washington, D.C. So I was already super tired of being a lawyer, super tired of living in Rio and all
Yeah.
that, whenever that implies. And my father said, Guy, why don't you come stay with me for a couple months, decide what you want to do of your life, and then you come back. And I
Yeah.
said, okay. So, and I also back then I met my ex-girlfriend, and she was also come to the US. So I joined, like, staying closer to her with the opportunity to live abroad without being incredibly worried about expenses.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I came to the US with the purpose of taking a break from my life in Rio, and I was thinking about going back to school. I was studying master's degree programs in Portugal, in Europe. But then when I came to DC, I met Ashley Kent, which is the head of District Zook. And then over the course of time, I slowly transitioned into working with dance. So I came to the West to take a break of my life in Rio, like
Yeah.
to like, air things up. And then the opportunity showed up, and then I embraced it. And here I am.
Wow. I mean, and it's very interesting because, especially the work you do with Ash is amazing. Seeing you guys, how you work together with that connection with your students, it shows the experience that both of you have. And
Mhm.
definitely big shout out to District Zook doing amazing things out in the DMV area. So, if kind of looking back to when you first got introduced to this, fast forwarding into 2017 and onward, then becoming a teacher, what was
Mhm.
that feeling like now? Kind of saying you went from just learning this or someone teaching you out of a necessity to you now teaching others. What was that experience like for you?
Uh, well, that was that was a little surreal to me because it didn't hit me until kind of 2 years later, and it hit me when I saw a video that Kuna did of me dancing with Kelsey, that we
Mhm.
danced to "In the Nature of Daylight," uh, and I remember watching that video before he edited it, and I started like sobbing. I started crying so hard because I felt something, and I felt like, man, I'm not a lawyer anymore. Like I really
Mm.
did the transition from like somebody that would work a corporate job
Yes.
to somebody that was working with art, and I really felt this. I really felt something inside of me that made me realize that's what I do now. You know, so that transition for like when I started teaching, because I started with a class and then a workshop, and then things started like
This.
happening,
Yeah.
and then I was not fully aware. I was just going with it, like okay,
Mhm.
and then I saw that video and like poof, and then it hit me really hard emotionally because
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I do now. So that was
Mm.
the moment that it really clicked, and life and things in something inside of me changed. And I finally convinced myself that I was doing that, because before I had this like imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
you know, and then when I this change happened, I was like, yes, I'm a dance instructor now.
But that's very interesting to hear because it's really the notion of looking at the man in the mirror, having that reflection. Because
Yeah.
I think you may agree, but many of us we realize that we are our harshest critics,
Yes.
but really we don't understand the impact or the influence of the contributions we make until it's really
Hmm.
shown into our faces. But
Yeah.
actually, you having that experience of actually someone showing you what you look like in their eyes from the
Hmm.
outside world looking at you, it was a reflection because you went from a corporate level job force to now really working with people. Of course, as a lawyer, you work with people in capacities, but this is a total different feeling. And
Hmm.
realizing that you're actually making people enjoy this. It doesn't feel dragging. It doesn't feel tedious. This is something that I feel I see it becomes a passion. And just seeing now how people just really embrace you. So,
Hmm.
you of course then going to events and going to socials or festivals, and how is that feeling now? Going from Brazil when you were taking these classes to now traveling the world and seeing how far Zook has come.
Man, I tell people sometimes that I have these waves of gratitude sometimes, because for me, I'm living a fairy tale. To be very, I'll be very honest. It's like, man, the fact that somebody flies me somewhere, picks me up at the airport, feeds me, gives sometimes their badge, you know, take care of my well-being, in a way that never happened before. That for me is so uh
It's like family.
yeah, it's it's like it's like
It's characteristics of what family does.
yeah, it's hard for me to describe. It's like, man, this is so, how many people in the world have this treatment, this like privilege of being, you know. So for me, it's very like, it's very, I feel grateful for it, and it's very grounding as well in a way,
Mhm.
because uh it's uh it's an exchange, I think, that happens between me and people, and I really try to feel very grounded in this exchange as much as I can,
Mhm.
uh, to not let it take me to a place of expectations,
Mhm.
that to expect it to be treated in a certain way. Yeah. And I have a very, something interesting, very interesting that happened to me, because after I spent a year here in the US, I came back to Brazil to see family and stuff. And I'm not as known in Brazil as I am in the US.
Mhm.
So I remember going to a Zook social, and feeling all the struggles that I used to feel back in the day, were like hard to ask people to dance, feeling all the shyness around it, getting the nose, getting the, like, oh, I'm in this person's line, I'm in this other thing's line, I'm na
Yeah.
na 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 na, you know. So I'm going from a reality of like being here in the West, where I just show up and I get dances, going to Brazil, where it's harder.
Wow,
I
and
was,
that's it.
I was,
That's fascinating because you being
yeah,
from there, the reception is different because usually when you leave and come back, people are like they haven't seen you that long, and there's always somebody new and fresh. So that is really revealing to hear that the reception is actually kind of more different in Brazil.
yeah, man, it was really challenging, and it was really grounding to me, because I put myself in the shoes of those who I teach, and like, the difficulties, that is easy to forget how difficult it is in the
Mhm.
beginning, to mingle, to belong. Uh, so, like I was saying, I see this facts that I travel around and then I teach places as like a big privilege and a fairy tale, in the sense that in the sense that uh, it might be over someday, or things might change drastically. I might change profession. I might want to do something else, and I just be try to be very mindful
Yeah,
of the extreme privilege and pleasure that is to do what I do right now, and the reception that I get from the
absolutely. I
people.
mean, in reality, me going through that same experience now, realizing that people like us who are passionate about what we do, it's finally showing because others see it. Others
Hmm.
believe in us. They believe in our talents. They believe in our influence and how we carry ourselves. Because again, there's very few people in different communities that people look up to. And seeing when people are talking about your classes, just saying how fulfilling it is. Because we know there's so many dancers, there's so many teachers nowadays. It is
Yeah,
hard for some to have that individuality. But to see with you, the word that keeps resounding in my mind is humility, and realizing that I'm noticing when we're talking, the word that keeps popping up is privilege, and realizing that you understand is that all this can be taken away tomorrow.
yes,
Anything can happen, but the fact is that you are leaving positive relationships or positive notions in people's hearts. That's why people receive you so well, because you treat them how you would want to be treated. And it's really
yes,
just that family aspect. But again, when people believe in you and they believe in your brand, really the sky is just the limit. But at least now, before we get into our last segment called the randoms, now that we're
mm.
in 2022 and going forward, what are some plans or projects or things you're looking forward to this upcoming year and going forward.
Yeah. Wow. And so I have some things planned out
Hmm.
that uh, for for a couple of different reasons I cannot fully
No worries. Yes,
yeah.
yes, definitely the top secret stuff.
Yeah, there's this because involves several other people, so I need to be like
Yes,
we have to be
absolutely.
all be in the same kind of page
Hmm.
to do the. But I have a lot of personal projects as well, and I think I have been getting into intensive trainings. I have been really enjoying this setting. I have been doing one called the Leaders Intensive, which
Yes.
is something that has been bringing me a lot of joy as a facilitator, and have and the results have been so interesting, so fulfilling that I'm really passionate about it. Uh, and also like trainings called something that we call, which is like intensive 7 hours a day kind of intensive training. So I'm really enjoying this sort of trainings to really spend more time with people in smaller groups, smaller settings. So the projects that I have that I can fully disclose right now is around like developing this more uh, this intensives that has a more intimate vibe, you know, and
Hmm.
it's really focused on the learning of your the learning, uh, having those who are in the room
Yes.
as those who you will learn from, not from me,
Hmm.
but from those who are in the room. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
projects in the horizontal way of learning. So that's what I've been passionate about, and that's what I have planned for this year.
Okay. Definitely. I
And
love it. I
coming
love
up
it.
more, yeah, coming up more.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, actually, now it brings us to our last segment called the randoms. And I love doing this section because I feel like it brings a lot of levity and understanding to the overall conversation. Here is where I give you about 5 to 10 questions here
Nice.
that may deal with dance, may deal with life, and everything in between. So, Guy, all I need to know is when you are ready.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
All right.
excited.
All right, perfect. And I just say this, just when you see these questions, just let me know how you really feel. So here is the
Okay.
first one. Your favorite city to dance in. And
Wow.
you've been in many places, but is there a
Hmm.
city right now that you just love to be at right now and be dancing?
Man, there are actually two cities that I
Okay.
really love to dance at. The first one is DC, né?
Hmm.
Eh, for I mean for reasons that I like bias reasons, but because I really love to dance with the people who would take classes from us. You know, like I really enjoyed that exchange. And
Hmm.
actually, New York, man, like I
Okay.
really love dancing in New York. Every time I go there, I have an incredible time. Like I
Mm.
really love New York. I think I think the New York people figured out a way of dancing that is like magical to me because the spaces are not so big. You got
Yes.
like all these tiny spaces to dance with. And then, man, I dance there. I don't get bumped once. I feel so like free, like in the space. It's so nice.
Mhm.
It's like,
No, no, and it's funny, Guy, that you say that because I people have to understand places like Jersey and out anywhere else that is not New York. They don't understand. There are very few studios that we have that have that much space. One
yeah.
of my favorites currently now is EPA Studios. I was there for a Zouk event, but like you said, because in different kind of communities, whether it's salsa bachata, for example, the bigger the crowd, the more anticipation. But me going into Zouk events, for people, it's more about the more space you have, the more enjoyable it is.
Hmm.
It's more of, can I have enough space that we can have an awesome experience without wondering if someone's going to bump right into me?
Yeah.
You know. So I definitely appreciate that one. So now, all right, I like that. So the next one here should be very interesting because we definitely touched on it towards the beginning. So introvert or extrovert or right in the middle.
Ooh, that's hard, man. Because like right now, I think I'm in the middle. I think I'm in the
Mm,
middle. When I think extrovert, the concept of extrovert in my head is far from what I am right now, and the concept of introvert that I have in my head is closer to how I feel right now. So I would be like in the spectrum, introvert,
mhm.
extrovert. I'll be slightly the middle's right here, slightly towards introvert,
Okay. All right. I
according to
like
the concepts that I have in my head of what an extrovert person looks
I got you because I know me and you both have met people that are extremely, extremely extroverted.
like. Yes,
All right,
exactly.
right now, this should be very interesting. We're gonna take this all the way to Brazil, and I've
Okay.
asked another Brazilian, Charles Espinosa, the
Mm.
same question. So, caporinha or pão de queijo?
Pão de queijo. Easy.
Ah, he said caparinha. So I mean, hey, I actually chose pão de queijo. So hey, my Portuguese is getting there, and I
Getting there.
definitely can't wait to go to Brazil myself.
Yeah.
Oh my god! All right, now this next question here be very interesting because you also touched on it earlier in our conversation, and I want to see what you come up with. So imagine right now you're in a room, you have a game console but you can only play one game. What game is it?
With a gaming console?
Gaming console or even a computer? I'll give you both.
Oh my gosh. I can only play one game. Oof. Wow. I think I think I would go for, man, I really like Civilization 6.
Okay.
One of the Civilization games.
Okay.
I could.
I see how you thought about that one. All right,
I
next
did. I did.
one. All right, our next one here is also interesting. So right now you are at an event, doesn't matter what event it is, but right now they're closing out, it's towards the end of the event, and you can have one follow right now. Who would it be?
Jesus Christ. Closing the event and I can have one follow. One follow. Wow, man, that's so hard. I think one of the most amazing things here is the amount of incredible followers
Hmm.
that we have. And like you choosing one follow to close the night.
Yes, you know that when they say that last song before they kick everybody out for the next day, you can have only one follow. Who is it?
Less, man, I think I would have Brenda.
Okay.
Brenda, yeah.
I definitely love that answer. And of course, Allison here says shots would be fired.
Oh
At
yeah,
the-
100%.
Hey, it's all love over here. Trust me, trust me. All right, this next one definitely is a little more lighthearted, and it goes like this: If you aren't dancing, you are doing blank.
Oof. If I'm not dancing, man, I think I'm eating somewhere.
Okay.
Eating
All right.
somewhere, yeah. Eating like maybe ramen, maybe like pizza, yeah, something
Okay. I
eating.
can definitely see the American. You're becoming more Americanized day by day.
Man,
Hey.
like if I'm here, it's gonna be one of those two things. If I'm in Brazil, I'm eating açaí all day long.
That's very
Mm.
interesting. Kind of your eating habits change from region to
Oh,
region.
100%. Yeah, I was in Brazil just like a couple of weeks ago. I was eating açaí every day. I was like 3 times a day sometimes. But and my mom's food too. My mom's food is so good to me. So I would. It's different when I'm here because I don't have sort of a ramen there in Brazil, and the
Yeah.
level of pizza that we have here, it's not the level of pizza that we have in Brazil. Here we have a lot more available. So yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Mhm.
Definitely. All right. Well, now let's take it back to the DMV. So, can you give me a favorite thing about the DMV to you?
Oh yeah, man. I think the favorite thing for me, especially about DC, is the layout of the city itself. I really like DC because it's easy to walk, easy to go around,
Hmm.
and it has like this European feel that I really enjoy. So not having a car, it makes it very enjoyable to be in that area because it's so easy to go around. So I think that's for me the favorite thing about DMV is the easiness to go around and the amenities of a big city
Hmm.
with the feeling of a smaller one. So it's that's like the that suits me and my vibe at this moment in my life very much.
Definitely appreciate that. All right. The
Yeah.
next one, this should be interesting, is can you give me a fun fact about you?
Fun fact about me. Man, my humor is horribly silly. I have a silly ass humor, I laugh off of like silly things,
Hmm.
and it's so funny when I show to people the things that I find funny because they just stare at the thing with a serious face. Uh, but and another thing too is that I really love dating shows. Like it's
Mm.
a I really like dating shows, but like I like dating shows from different cultures, from different from the Latin America culture, the Brazilian culture, or the American culture. I like to watch dating shows from different countries.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I actually like watching like 90 Day Fiance. I another show that I like. It isn't really a dating show, but it's a Brazilian show. A subsidy is The Circle when they had the
The
Brazil
circle.
version. I mean,
Hmm.
I love it for sure. But hey, that's really an interesting fact that you're really into dating shows. So hey, you never know. One of those Zook hangouts you guys have a show night and just watch. Hey, I
We
definitely would
actually did one time. Actually did one time. We were
say
in
that.
people together and I put the thing.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, so our second to last question here is I'm going to give you the opportunity right now. If you can close your eyes and open them and be at one event right now,
Ooh,
what event would that be?
that could be one event that I have been or that I
You
have
get
or
one that you've been or you haven't been to.
oh yes. Uh-huh. Man, I think I would really love, and it's funny as Addison might be watching, but I would really love to go to Brazuki in Australia in Australia, which is an event that he organizes.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's like I've from what I've seen and from what I've heard of it, it's an event that I would really like to that I could be that I'd like to be. It's also because it's in Australia and I all
Yeah.
hear all the good things about Australia too. So yeah, Brazuki, Australia. Mm.
All right. Love that answer. Love that answer. All right. Now it brings us to our last one. And this is a question I brought back from a few episodes ago, and I call it the island question. And I think it's favorable because you, coming from Brazil, I definitely love to hear your answer. So the island question is you are stuck on a Brazilian island away from civilization
Mm.
for a weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but you can only have three items with you. What are those three items?
Oh wow! 3 items with me Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like 3 items. Man, I think I would like to have like a speaker,
Hmm.
item number one. Uh, my phone just to play something on the speaker. That's it. But like no internet, absolutely no internet.
Mm.
Yeah, and another item. Yeah, man, that's maybe like something to cook with, like a pan or a pot, something like
Okay.
that.
All
Yeah.
right. Hey, there you go. And honestly, thank you again for doing this segment. The questions are crazy, but at the end of the day,
Oh, I
I'm really
love it.
glad I got to learn a little bit more about you. And now it helps us transition to the conclusion of our talk today. And honestly, Guy, I really appreciate your efforts, everything you do, and your contribution. From one artist to another, thank you for what you do. Because a lot of times as artists, I know the lifestyle, you're just going from one event to another and you don't have time to kind of decompress and reevaluate everything you've been through that has gotten you this far. And having you on tonight was really special. Getting to know who you are more as the person, not just the artist, is really what was important to me. And I felt like we got
Yeah, man.
a lot more understanding of who you are. Of course, we can't get through everything because our lives are like onions. It's so many layers. So I definitely
Hmm.
can't wait to see you again in person, and we can definitely do this interview publicly and really talk and engage. And again, I really appreciate tonight's talk, but before we do go, I'd love to know if you had any last few words for myself and the audience, but also contact info on how people can reach you and see what you're up to next.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really like to thank you the opportunity here publicly and say it felt so comfortable to be here. Like the way the way you conduct the interview was so nice, so easy. Like you made me want to stay talking. Was so
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, it's like very comfortable, very, 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 very
Mhm,
relaxed. So nice. I loved the questions. I really liked everything. Uh, the opportunity to share some of the stories, some of my stories,
mhm,
and I really like to say that uh, eh, I think I am where I am because of the people that I had in my that I have in my life. That's super
mhm,
important for me, and I really like to acknowledge those who make life right now possible in the way it is right now possible. Like, and I really like to acknowledge here publicly as well, like Ashley Kent, because she's the person that opened the doors of the dance world as a profession for me. So like it's really her importance in how things are for me right now is like gigantic. So I really
mhm,
like to say that and to like really appreciate the efforts that everybody at District Zook does. Addison, Elena, Megan, Revati, Armella, like everybody that is in the team and make everything possible there. So uh, just share my appreciation for Ashley and for the whole team. Uh, yeah, and for people to find me, uh, I have my social media as the main ways to
mhm.
contact me and to talk. Like Facebook and Instagram, both of them work well. Uh, and that's it. I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, hey, honestly, Key, honestly, from start to finish, I've appreciated everything from your honesty, your transparency, and for me, I'm glad that the zoo community has a humble individual like yourself. That again, I feel like is still a student of the game. I think all of us as artists, no matter when, there's nothing you can't learn. Even
hmm,
as we are teaching others, we're still learning. Even as we interact with others, we're still learning. And the one thing, the one word you said a lot throughout this interview is privilege. I think our biggest privilege in life is having the ability of socialization, the ability to
hmm.
meet all types of people from all walks of life, and to see you going from just learning this from someone instructing you to you traveling the world and influencing others with now your teaching and your knowledge. And honestly, I thank you so much for coming on. I thank everyone that's tuned in, that will be tuning in. This episode will be featured on Spotify soon. And everyone, thank you again for tuning in. It's been another great episode. This is episode 196 on the countdown to 200 episodes. Guy, thank you. I know right now you're in Portland getting ready for the Eclipse event over this weekend.
Yeah,
Big shout out to everyone there. But most of
thank you.
all, Guy, thank you for everything you do. Thank you, everyone, for watching. It's been another great episode. Take care. See you soon. Peace.